We cannot break out of where we are as a country if a critical mass of people do not have access to relevant information. It is impossible. First things first about storytelling is identifying what your story is. I knew how to use words to get out of trouble. And the more you learn words, the more you are looking for opportunities to express it.
It was one of the hardest truths you had to learn in Nigeria's constantly evolving ecosystem.
I was the strategy and ideas person for a very long time. I have started executing. Amenities are shocking me. I had the ideas. This is how things are supposed to be. And now I have seen things break multiple times that I understand the things that were breaking and I was giving professional advice about.
What will be one or two practical steps for people that want to learn how to tell better stories?
Stuff for us who are telling the stories, it gives us an opportunity to. I am very passionate about Africa. As a continent, we can do a bit more than where we are today. And the only way for us to do it is.
Hi, welcome.
Hello, Joshua. I'm excited to be here.
Beautiful. You've had an interesting journey, right? Working with people, startups, businesses. From when you studied mass communication at Uniben, you worked at a newspaper company, you worked in radio, and then helping giving strategic insights to businesses and startups, right? You had to use words alongside in all of these places. So let me take you back a bit. When was the first time you knew that words have power and then you wanted to do something with them?
That's a very interesting question. I think I've been fortunate. It was a couple of years back. I was speaking with my classmates, and then they said something that really shocked me, which was that they reminded me of an incident where they were punishing us in secondary school. And I wanted to speak, and my principal was like, "No, Ope, don't talk. Ope, don't talk." I mean, that was from the perspective that I knew how to use words to get out of trouble. It just meant that I knew the right thing to say and how to say the right things, and I think that kind of like played a significant role in my understanding of what words are. Again, like secondary school, I intentionally decided that I wanted to be in art class, left science class to go do arts. At the other point, when everybody were choosing law, I said, no, I'm going to do mass comm, and I chose mass comm. At the point where everybody were choosing stuff, university, I did mass comm first choice, and I did ISD second choice, which shocked a lot of people. But again, it was still interesting because I decided I didn't want to do law. I just wanted to be able to understand how to read words. I think for me, I've been writing poems. I used to write poems. I don't write poems anymore, so nobody should expect me to write poems. but I think the earliest for me is seeing how I always had something to say concerning a lot of stuff, and I also knew what to say to get out of trouble a lot. I went to boarding house from just one. So it meant that I had to survive. It's not now that they're saying boarding house, no punishment. If I enjoying boarding house now. But so I had to learn how to use words to get out of trouble. I think, and maybe that's why my mind morphed a lot around strategic comms, because a lot of what strategic comms also means is war. Like that's the real part of the word strategy, like understanding how to leverage insights and plot a way out when there are situations. Yeah.
Interesting. But then those exposure, you built that confidence. You had the confidence to just say, I want to go for mass comm and not go for law. You had the understanding that you could use words to really do a lot of stuff. But how did you learn to do that? Was it from your parents? Was it from your exposure to books at an early stage? Yeah, so what sparked that ability to be able to say, this is what I want to do, and I think I can do it?
That's a very tough question. Maybe it's church. So from an early stage, a couple of days back, I was back in Port Harcourt, and I was in a chat with my children teacher when I was really small. She still plays a significant role in my life till today. So church was really good, like really, really good. There were a lot of creative stuffs that were happening. And I think that maybe because I was also now a church boy, and you're in church where you're having to play a lot of roles as a result of the fact that you're outspoken, and it's church now, nobody can tell you shut up. So I think that played a lot of role, and my dad was also really strict. He's the father that. They say people knows to beat people again. Disciplines you. Force. I mean, when it comes, okay, yeah. So when it comes back home, he's like, "Go and read your book." And me, I didn't like maths, so when they say go and read your book, I go and carry the dictionary, or like I read something that was really exciting. And I think that the thing about words is that the more you learn words, the more you are looking for opportunities to express it, right? And I think those were the two things. Church helped me express because I had to do a lot of things. There were always activities in children's church for us. And so because there were always activities and there were always opportunities to do stuff in front of adults, even when we were having children anniversary and a whole lot of things, then coupled with the fact that books, reading, I picked up my dictionary a lot. I loved to read the dictionary. I was just reading the dictionary. That was the only thing I read. Because my father was like, go and read your book. I think those two things played significant roles because I was reading things that were like not necessarily stories. I didn't do a lot of storybooks or novels, although I did that in school. But I always picked up things that had words instead of things that had calculation very early. And I think that affected a whole lot of my consciousness. Church played a whole role. I think maybe my primary school also played a whole role, but because I had to think about this answer, but I feel like maybe church played a whole role, and then house too, because of the things I had to read and learn early. And also because, I mean, we had to take responsibility also really early. And so taking responsibility means that you need to find your way out a lot of times.
Interesting. Absolutely agree. And that part of church where you mentioned how you can just say anything, nobody will beat you. The restrictions are a bit low in terms of church. And if you even look at those that are in the supposedly secular world now, many of them had their beginnings in church, whether they are musicians, people speaking. I think church really plays a major role because without portfolio, without
draw your sword,
exactly,
we'll do presentation, we'll do drama,
exactly.
we'll do competition. Then there was something we used to do in my church. I mean, thank you very much, Uncle Dele, anywhere you are. We had like 4 groups: Nisi, Rafa, El Shaddai, and then we'll compete. Like we'll do presentation, we'll do drama, you do king and queen, like small church, children church, but we had a lot of activities. I went on my first excursion through my church when I was in primary school, went to Coca-Cola Bottling Company, went to CTL, went to the zoo. Some of my major experiences growing up, especially at the very early stage, were cultivated by my church, children church.
Interesting. I think that's a beautiful thing to have done that, and like beautiful to still have churches still trying to incorporate other interesting activities for people. Communication, storytelling. You once said that storytelling is much more than words. It's about clarity. So what do you mean by clarity in the context of branding, marketing, or communications in general?
Thank you very much. That's a very amazing question. If you have ever tried it, you realize that when you are going through stuff, when you begin to write, you have some form of clarity. That like you're confused and you just pick up a pen and paper and you begin to write and you see that sharing your thoughts sometimes gives you like a way to navigate. Another one that you see it happen a lot is if you are going through issues and then you have someone to do that, someone that is sensible, to do that back and forth with. You realize that when you start having that conversation, at the end of the conversation, sometimes when there's even problem, but you now have like a very amazing sparring partner, back and forth. What happens is that you get clarity on the way. And sometimes you're like, okay, now I know the solution to the problem. Like it goes back again to when I did therapy for the first time. Like I had a lot of bad thinking around what therapy is. But after my first 2-3 sessions, I enjoyed therapy. Like I really, really enjoyed therapy because I realized that she would just ask one question. I would talk for like 20 minutes. I say, okay. I'm like, okay, that's nice. But back to your question, which is, I think that at the end of the day, what storytelling does for us who are telling the stories first off, it gives us an opportunity to think around multiple sides and then choose a side that we want to communicate. That choice in itself is clarity. And sometimes, even when we are not clear, we are subconsciously choosing a path by picking the path that we share. We may not, yes, we may not be able to tie it down, because sometimes I also get into times where I'm writing, and that's even from the past perspective of the creative side. When you now bring it back to work, which is branding and communication, how and why I say it as clarity is in the sense that you have to choose how you want to experience and communicate something. And the fact that you're making that choice means that you must have gone to a level of either consciously or subconsciously deliberating about something to choose that this is how you want to be seen. Most of the people who have disjointed comms are people who have not taken time to be clear. And so as they are sharing, they share today, share tomorrow is different. And so at the end of the day, they are getting people confused. And since people are confused when they experience you, they can't make up their mind on how they want to see you or experience you. And so brand loyalty becomes problematic. And so when going back to what I would have loved to ask, which of the context I mentioned that. But yeah, communication, strategic comms, branding in itself is clarity, because you get to a point where you're clear about how you want to be seen and experienced, and anything that is not in alignment with how you want to be seen and experienced becomes not on brand.
Interesting. I think that's an interesting way to put it, and it's important to like have clarity, because in this age where we are aware there are a lot of people creating content, there are a lot of trends. You see businesses also want to jump on trends. Some would like get it right, some would just like fail at it. And then instead of them getting the highs, they maybe will just get negative stuff as regards their businesses. But then once you are clear about this is who we are, this is what we stand for, it helps you to be able to like curate how you want to speak.
And branding is now that journey of achieving clarity, so you know what to communicate and when to communicate it, and those you are communicating with.
Interesting. It's commonly said that with storytelling you can build trust. Individuals, whether for themselves or for their businesses, just by consistently sharing, they're able to like build trust. Yes, a lot of people, some people know how to do it. But then some people are like failing at it. But then I would love to know your perspective, right? How do you tell stories in a way that you can like build trust, especially in a low trust environment like Nigeria?
Okay, that's another really solid question. So I usually say, and I think there's one video out where I said it, that there's usually this popular saying that if the lions knew how to tell stories, or the context around hunting would be different, because animals do not understand how to tell their own side of the story. So the only thing we know about is what the hunters are saying. I think another example I gave was I came home late, past 10, past 12, and maybe my coffee was 10 o'clock, and my mom is at the gate and ready to drum the storm. But I got there, and the first thing I said, Mommy, if I tell you one chance, I entered one chance, but I'm back home. You know, all the anger that she
will just fly away,
just fly. So context has changed the reaction. That is what storytelling does. Context influences reaction to things every time. So it means that the information you have or the information you have shared, if it's able to create a context that influences decisions to be seen in a particular way, then you have achieved some level of success. Bringing it back to what you're saying. You know, when we talk about storytelling and how it helps to build trust, especially in low trust environments, is that, you know, when you hear, Mama, you do good, or you do good, right? And you look at it from the perspective of, or one, when we were really growing up at the point, I don't know, maybe it happened in other people's home, but Cadbury Breakfast TV was a very huge part of my Saturdays because they gave me cartoons. And then, so when I thought about tea, that was what I knew about tea, right? Same thing again for noodles. When you think about noodles, there's only one thing that comes to your mind about noodles, right? And if you want to buy something and you get to the market and it's something that you have been in conversations that people are talking about, it is easier for you to decide that this is the one you want to buy. because you have just heard it in the previous conversations. And I think the first part that we need to understand, there's a professional part of storytelling, which is the whole a hero has an issue, and after the hero has an issue, you create, this is a hero, he has an issue, he overcomes the issue, now you climax, then those are like the technical part of storytelling. But if you want to say what storytelling is in itself at the core, it's just sharing your context, your own side of the story, so that people who can relate to your own side of the story can come and do business with you. At all. It's like what Salem was doing at one point when he was just sharing. You know what happened? All of us that could relate to Salem's experience started trusting him or started wanting to hear from him. And now when he talks about the fact that if he says something about the brand that is on community, people want to do that because they believe that Salem has already hacked something around that area, right? So sharing and saying stories help to build context that can influence people's decision. And that is where trust now comes in. Trust is a substance that is created by level of access of information that you have to stuff. For example, you are dating and you are getting to know your wife. You don't meet someone today and trust the person. It is over time. 100%. And that over time, you can't trust someone you have not had several levels of conversations with. It is practically impossible. So when we say storytelling builds trust, what is happening is the more you get to share and engage and people can connect to what makes you you, the more they feel like they know a lot about you to be able to do X, Y, Z with you. That's what it does. So if there is no information, trust cannot be built. Trust is built on a substance of information across the board, even for them. And that's why brands are doing comms are doing adverts. That's why brands are using influencers. That's why brands are sharing. That's why even for the brands that you think are silent, that's why they are doing things behind the scene for a narrative to be created, right?
That seem as if they are silent.
They are not in front, they are behind, but they do well enough to ensure that even that not being seen itself is an asset that cannot be leveraged. The fact that we don't even hear about you yet, people trust you. So that means there must be something about you in itself. So when you bring everything back to what you're saying, storytelling for me is sharing. Storytelling for me is creating harmonizable context, is doing enough to share enough so that people who can relate to where you are coming from or where you are going can get on the bus with you so that the journey can be sweeter.
Interesting. I think that's a very, very interesting perspective and a beautiful way to have shared how you can use storytelling to build trust. So there's someone out there, and maybe any of our listeners, right, that has been struggling with telling their story. A lot of people just still feel like it's too difficult. Do I need to show up every day? There are businesses also that don't know how to share their story. So what would be one or two practical steps you'd want to share for people that want to learn how to tell better stories?
I'll hop into my DM and then I'll help you pay me money.
Because you pay consultancy.
You pay me money. But I think the first things first is identifying what your story is. I think that for a lot of people, why there is a disconnect is that they are not even confident enough in the thing that they think that they want to share, that they feel like if they share, maybe people are going to catch their scope. Right. So I mean, for example, now we live in a world now where foolishness is becoming a tradable capital. What that means is now because you are bold enough to be foolish online, people are now trusting you to reach people like you who are foolish, but a lot more. Because when you look at the world, realistically, there are a lot more people who are not wise than people who are wise. And that's why the world is the way it is. So if we see that you are confident enough to push X, then we will need to reach those people to push that and to get money. We use you that has already created the pedestal of foolishness to reach more people who probably think around that. I'm sorry if I'm calling someone foolish, but yeah, that's what it is at the end of the day. I feel like, let me come back. What I mean and how I went into that place was, if first things first about storytelling is identifying what your story is. Some people are lucky enough to grow in environments that help them to identify that story when they are younger. And so because they know their story, they are confident enough to either share it, embody it, or exude it. Right? Share it is sharing. Embodying it is it being you. Exude it is doing it in such a way that the people around you can feel it. Right? Why some people don't even know what their story is. And so maybe those are the kind of people that now need to work with professionals or be in spaces where someone can identify their gift and beam the spotlight on it. But the first thing is identifying your story. What's that thing that makes you unique? What's that thing that makes you fit? Right? When you identify it, then sharing now becomes a next step. Because if you don't even know what you have, how do you share it to other people? Right? So the first thing for anybody out there, for any business, is first identifying who you are, why you are doing what you're doing, the people you are doing it for, and what it is exactly that the value that you want to communicate is. When you have already understood that, then sharing now becomes the next step, if you even want to share. Because sometimes you really do not have to share if the value you create at the end of the day creates a pedestal for that story to now become something else. However, I tell people that more often than not, sharing gives you enough breadcrumbs for people to know what to do with you in the future or not do with you in the future. So back to your question, which is like really important, is I don't know anything about storytelling. Where do I start? First things first, understand who you are, the story that you are trying, what you want to represent, and then begin to start from the little that you are in. I think more often than not, what has really even happened in this part is that a lot of people are not even confident enough to be able to represent what they say they know or who they say they are, or the value that they say that they want to give out. So they don't know enough to share. And so they feel like if they share, they will be caught. And some people don't even know up to them, but they are confident and they are sharing. So I think you should just start and just talk about what you do. It could be videos, it could be text, it could be a tweet here or there. I usually advise people to start with their WhatsApp status because it's really the simplest part. And all the people that are there know you one way or the other. That's why they are seeing your WhatsApp status. You would have shared your number one way or the other. I think I have a video on that on YouTube, and that's why they can see. So if you start with your WhatsApp, first things first, at least you can't pretend they know you to the house, right? So you start, just do small. Next thing, maybe you are confident enough, then you can do tweets. Next thing, maybe you're confident enough, maybe you can do small videos, short videos. Next thing, maybe you're confident enough, you can have sessions and like, but it starts with first identifying that scalable value that you have discovered about yourself, or that unique thing that you have discovered about yourself or the business, or that thing about your business that makes you different from every other thing, which may now become a brand value that you want to communicate. And then the next thing is just creating multiple breadcrumbs that can lead people to you based on the thoughts that you share over time.
Interesting. Hello, sorry for the break. I know you're enjoying the episode. Please, if you haven't subscribed, please just hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and also leave a comment. Share to friends and family. It goes a long way to help the channel. You can get right back into the video. Interesting. And that's like super valuable insight, like you really shared with us. Instead of just like just start from where you are, could be like WhatsApp, as you said, and then just like find out first what exactly you want to share, what's unique about you. And if you decide not to even do it, there's another person that does not have up to what you have, they'll still go out there, put it out there, and then people will just still relate with them instead of relating with you. I think that's like super valuable. You've been on the team that has worked on identities for startups that are doing really well, like Nomba, YouVerify, Afriex, helping them to build their brand, especially from the point of strategy, communications. When you sit with a founder or you sit with a team, right, that are just probably just starting out, they want to build their startup or they have this interesting idea, what's like the framework that you usually use to help them build their brand?
I paused because I don't know, maybe that's trade secrets. but yeah. I mean, when I was driving down here, I think I was just remembering the day the number call came in. I think I was just leaving church and I just got the call. My name is Tolu. I'm like, okay. And then we had the conversation and I asked her to share a couple of things. And then she shared the first name. I'm like, yeah, first things first, I know you are going to work with you guys, but we'll have to change this name. She said, no, the name is fixed. No, the name was not fixed. And we had eventually had to change the name that they brought. I think that, and yeah, shout out to Fort Canvas, because the brands that you mentioned, I worked on those projects as strategy lead at Fort Canvas, brand strategy lead at Fort Canvas. I think the first thing in terms of framework that I usually do is that framework in my head now is scattered. But I'm just going to see if I can try to just piece it together. The first thing we usually do is to have a conversation, which is a discovery phase. We get to want to understand who you are. I am very particular about understanding who you are. One time I finished a strategy document, the first part of the strategy document, and the reaction of the founder was, but this is who I am now. I didn't need to come and meet you to know this. And I said, do you have this written anywhere? He said, no. And that's why this conversation happens. Because more often than not, founders have the idea of their brand in their head, but it's not documented anywhere. So then it's not scalable. So it means that the only person that understands where this brand wants to go, how this brand wants to work, is the founder. And if there's now a disconnect between the founder experience and the employees who are going to the field every day, you think that there's a problem. But the only problem that has now happened is there's just going to be several levels of disconnect. And that is why you now be having issues with, this is the design that design team is doing. This is what founder expects the brand. I used to say one of the biggest and most important parts of a brand strategy document for me is that at the end of the day, the people on the team have what they can use to back up their decisions against the people who are decision makers, if it is a very solid brand. Because, for example, if you say we want to be happy, we want to be excited, we want to do this, and then we have decided on colors, we have decided on tone of voice, we have decided on words, and you now come one day and you say, I should go and do a post. I have a Bible that shows you that this is how we want to do things. If we want to break it now, intentionally now give me reasons why we need to break it. Because again, if it's intentionally broken, then we can fix it, right? But if it's not intentionally broken, you give us problem at the end of the day. So first things first is discovery. That discovery is usually a call. There's usually a first discovery call. That call is just simple. I just want to get to know the people, just get to understand them. And then I collect all the documents that they have that is relating to their brand, bring it in, then I soak it in. And then we have another conversation. It's usually like a brand sprint. Sometimes it runs for like 3 hours. And so I'm just asking questions, asking the senior members of the team questions. So usually like a workshop setting, ask different people questions, and then different people say what they think about their brand, and then they agree on it. Because sometimes you now realize that the CEO, the CTO, and
they're all thinking,
and they are thinking about that same brand differently. So it is the meeting. Usually, I always get this. Wow, this exercise was so good. This exercise was so good, because at the end of the day, what happens for the leadership of the team, which I usually run that workshop for, is that again, alignment. And alignment is one part that if you achieve alignment, then speed and scale is next thing, right? Because if you can achieve alignment, and there's usually a brand side to business success that people don't talk about, especially if you want to scale and you don't just want to make money, because there are two different things. Some people just want to make money. Some people want to get big and make more money. There are two different experiences. And that's how, in a way, you now think about that short-term and long-term thinking, short-term gain and long-term gain. So that's the first part, discovery. After you get some discovery, and then I send you back a document that says, this is who you say you are. Do you agree?
That is who we are.
Do you agree that this is who we are? And then when we have done that, then I now go ahead and now start adding tone of voice, and I'll go ahead and now start adding like the whole verbal identity phase and brand personality. I usually shy away from archetypes. I don't use archetypes because I feel like archetypes sometimes are usually like restrictive. I go into brand personality. I go into key messages. Key messages just give you like pillars that help to broaden or help execution of your storytelling at the end of the day. So for example, if you have 5-6 pillars, right, you understand that these are the things that we need to talk about that will make people know who we are, that we have now agreed on and discovered through the process, right? That's now the last one thing I now do now, which is like in recent conversations, is that I now do like opportunities to express this personality that solidifies the branding. Because in itself, what branding should help you do, as I try to lock up this conversation, especially on this part, is that branding is supposed to create an image that helps to deliver value for your company in a way that also creates an exchange of value. right? So deliver value that creates an exchange of value. So I'm giving you a phone and then you are giving me money. So I'm giving you a service and then you are giving me money. But you need to believe that I'm the best person to offer that service. That is what branding should help to achieve, right? And so my job is to work with you to create that image so that it is compelling enough for people to choose you, especially in a world where there are now multiple options.
Let's now talk about driving, like strategy has been created.
Yeah.
This is who we are. This is how we want to be perceived.
Yeah.
So that process of now sharing now with artificial intelligence, innovation now, it has made it faster for people to just create sometimes strategy out of a thin air. And now there is a lot of content, videos, text. Once you go to social media now, you're bombarded with a lot of things. So now, how can brands, startups, people, how can they create copies or create the information they want to share in a way that is authentic and cuts through the noise?
Let me. Throughout this period where there has been like an increased opportunity for AI information and all, most times when you see brands that you know that is jammer that they don't used to know.
Yeah, most times you'll be able to feel it.
So I mean, there is communication and there's communication with soul, right? It's usually not as prevalent in sub-Saharan Africa because we are still really, really price sensitive. I'm talking about the majority. We are still really, really price sensitive, and soul is not affecting a lot of things here. Where we stay on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs is still affecting a lot of conversations around our buying decisions, and so that information may not be. I mean, if you say, if the only money I have is to buy Gary outside, all these things that people are telling me about, see one cup of Gary I will buy and at this cost, right? Yes, this is the best soap, but again, I can't afford that soap. Let me use the soap that is working. Although when you begin to scale and you want to become a global brand, that now becomes a problem, because why should someone trust a brand that is coming out of this country? You need to now have something else to back it up, right? Especially when you want to work across multiple jurisdictions and multiple markets. Back to the question that you asked, cutting through the noise, soul. And that's why, and soul is a function again, let's go back to it, which I explained as a very important part. Context. Context is so good. Context is so good. I was listening to a conversation a couple of weeks back. I think it's maybe a month or two now. It was Shei of that design, Jordan, and I'm trying to remember, Solomon Sosin, who is an interior person, and we're having that conversation around how almost everything is looking the same. They were sharing, and we got to realize that despite everything looking the same, people are now paying premium for things that look different but still have some level of soul that you can connect to. So at the end of the day, especially if you are running a global brand, to what MoneyPoint is doing now. MoneyPoint is attacking on every front. What do I mean by attacking on every front? They are attacking from the brand side and they are attacking from the execution side. They are doing a two-pronged attack. And that is why I think that they are going to go far, because you can see a level of energy from Tosin in terms of how he wants his brand to be perceived. Like, it's obvious, right? Like, I in my mind, I'm thinking of that video, one recent video that was done about the POS guy, I think in somewhere in the East, that was selling Oporoko. Oporoko is stockfish for people that don't know. And was talking about how people were doing fake alerts. That's Oporoko. That's so when you think about informal people having businesses through the use of POS, and then they're almost exactly having like standard business experiences because of someone's innovation, then you think beyond just a fintech to an aspect of your life that the technology has come to own. And it's like interesting. And so he's not running like typical startup. Fortunately for him now, maybe because as a result of the fact that there's now some resources to be able to push on that story. But his attack, execution is mad. Like so solid, but storytelling is also mad. It's not they just create content, which is what a lot of people are doing. By the time you now begin to want or need to work in multiple markets, you will need equity. Now, for example, if let's even remove those markets. Because sometimes I also feel like, even for me, I really do not take into consideration how much context changes the dynamics, even in price-sensitive markets. Any Oporoko person or now, or someone that stays in the market or in the Gile, because that's what is now happening. And that's one of the reasons why money point is affecting a lot of places, especially in the informal market, right? If I can see my story through the story of another person that you have shared, I will plug into what you have offered. So that's where it is. So the only way to break in, especially in this world that is now having a whole lot of almost information overload, is not forgetting that soul, which is born by context, is an important part of the content that you push out. So even if you are using tech, you're using a VU, or what's that thing that does video, or you're using AI, you need to introduce context to shift the dynamics and get people to experience you differently. Because if I can connect with you, you can take my money.
Got it. Interesting. I was going to ask that. My next question was going to be, which local brands? I wanted you to give one local, one international brand that is killing it and nailing it in terms of their communication. So you said money points already, and it's actually interesting because what they are doing, I also see like Child Deck also doing it. I've seen stories from them where they're talking about their riders, how they're able to make money to cater for families, cater for children. So other riders and other people too, they can see that, oh, this product is like changing lives, and then I'm able to, like, I can plug in into it too. But people using their platform, so people can also, oh, it saves time. I can like spend more time doing quite interesting stuff. And then money point, how they are pushing from both ends. But once you dig in a bit, right? Two people or two startups, they have, you mentioned the importance of soul, right? Their products have similar capabilities. Let's say I can transfer money from A to B. My other products can also do the same thing. So how can they still differentiate? Like, how can I still tell my story that it can still connect better? If you look at it, break it down, both of us, our product can do the exact same thing. How can we tell our stories better?
One of my favorite brands ever, global, Space Star. And I say it without any iota of anything. First time I saw Shola, I was, this is good at when you see Starstruck. It was Fola that was Fola somewhere. I said, this Shola. It was there, it was short. I first paused. I don't know if I greeted in that dish, but I think my favorite thing about Playstack is how they don't talk as much. They don't do what people consider as popular ways of storytelling, so to speak. But people have an opinion about them. I went to train a band sometime last year, and I asked, what is the color of Paystack logo? And the people there, they don't know what the logo looks like. But when I ask them what's Paystack, they know. More like, they don't even know why. If there's a checkout now, and there are options, most people will almost readily pick Paystack. Now there's one new one that's coming, but to just help the conversation, let me just pause there. And people don't like, and I'm not asking why is it that people pick that. It's just that, and that's what I'm saying. Some people don't even know what they look like, but they have heard of what they are like, and so people just trust them. How did they do it? That I usually feel like, for me, I feel like one thing that they have hacked is to do community-based storytelling that does not make it overt but makes it covert. More like, we have done enough to now get to ensure that people feel like they are part of us and they begin to share our stories. And so because the stories are being shared by people that are not us, but people that look like them, the believability is stronger, and then the traction is faster. And so it does not look like we are doing anything outside, even though they do a lot.
Yeah.
Although in recent times, they have not done as much as they used to do, but something has already been sparked, and then the fire has gone round. So two brands are doing exactly the same thing. I think it's just to just be soul again. Soul is really important for me, especially when I try to communicate or when I try to work with brands. But I feel like people in these parts don't really understand it, and the brands that understand it are hacking something.
Yeah.
Are hacking something, especially when it comes to functioning locally and also killing it globally. And what do I mean by soul? It just means that how we differentiate is how people think you care about them. It's just simple. It's just simple. If people think that you can go the extra mile, if people feel like you are trustworthy, because if Why is that important? Because the fact that you are doing the same thing means that there can be trouble. And I will most likely work with someone that I feel like if there is trouble or if there's an issue, it can quickly help me resolve because the person cares about me. So you are doing almost exactly the same thing. You're offering the same service, but I slightly tilt to this other side because I feel like, yes, it works 80% of the time, but the 20% that it doesn't work, will they care about me? Then I choose the one that I feel like
You care the most about me.
yeah. So that is what I feel like a lot of people really do not understand. And that is what your communication should do. And again, people, because most times when I say communication, people think that it's just talking. No, communication is talking and action. Have you typically met any Festac staff? They're almost like the company. They're almost like, what I mean by that is how they act is almost like how the company reacts to you, right? Fortunately for me, I started playing football with a lot of the staff, and I'm like, how did these people gather people like this? And I think that there was one time that Ezra was sharing, and I don't know, maybe he knew what he said, and he was sharing it more like, or maybe when I mean knew what he said, more like knew that that's what he was trying to communicate, that they tried to do something where culture was prioritized in terms of how they employ and onboard people, how they wanted people to feel about their job and the kind of people that they wanted in their company. And I think that's really, really sound. Although sometimes I also feel like as you now begin to get big, maybe they become
difficult.
But again, Apple hacked something. IKEA hacked something globally. Airbnb hacked something globally. So I feel like skill does not necessarily change things, but maybe reveals cracks that you should now work on to see if you can strengthen. So to just come back to the story and the question that you asked me, because sometimes I can get really excited about things like this. And because sometimes I try to even be very, because so that you can understand that it's can be practical. It's not boo-boo, right? Inject soul and then you become different. Soul also means that because you even have soul just means caring for people and showing that you care. Because you even have soul, it means that you are constantly optimizing for the quality experience that your customers are going to have. That is part of communication. Because people feel like communication is just, oh, I said the story, oh, I send the video, oh, I'm doing life cycle marketing, I'm doing that is anything that you are saying that if people see you, they can't experience it, you are putting yourself into trouble one day.
Yeah. Interesting. Nigeria's ecosystem is constantly evolving. So looking back at your journey, what was one of the hardest truths you had to learn about communications or just even building a brand or working with partners and businesses in Nigeria's constantly evolving ecosystem?
Your opinion is your opinion. What is happening in real life is what is happening in real life. I was the strategy and ideas person for a very long time until very recently. Now I have started executing, and many things are shocking me. Right, so I had the ideas. This is how things are supposed to
Like
be.
this, like
This
this,
is
like
how
this,
things are
the
supposed
perfect
to
way.
be. This is how things are supposed to be. And now I have seen things break multiple times that I understand the things that were breaking and I was giving professional advice about because I did not have context. I had so much to say. That's why these days I don't have so much to say.
You only see what needs to be said.
I don't have so much to say. Because now I've seen how sometimes the company can do what they can do and things will break. I've seen how the fact that sometimes mistakes are not like they just plan to want to scatter your day. And it is beyond the company's control and they can only manage you. Right? I think for me, what is even most important is now, I think the hard truth for me is that you can do your best and things will still break. And that is, I think that has been very instructive for me. Like really instructive. Like you can release the best product and you think that this is everybody and man, everybody have moved on from you, man. And I think that's so humbling that I feel like many people should consistently be learning about the people that they are working with or they are serving or they are providing services for. So it means that, although now I can now say there's a professional side to it, engage with your people, talk to customers. Yeah, that's how you manage it. But I mean, you can do all that, and by the grace of God.
Interesting. You're very intentional about joining empowering communities.
Yeah.
Gemstone, Leadership Clinic.
Yeah.
What was like your obsession as regards joining or helping to build communities or places where people can learn, grow together, and like solve problems?
I strongly believe that everything in life is people. The people you know, the people who know you, the people who care about you, and the people who don't care about you. Everything is people. And so I think communities create a setting where the right people can be around you to ensure that you are doing the right things, irrespective of what life throws at you, because life will throw a lot of things at you. So if you are now among the right people, it means that you can be certain about your reaction to things, right? I think that I'm a product of communities. I think that where I have gotten to now is a function of things that I now know now based on the people that I have met. That if I did not meet them, I knew where the trajectory of my life was going to. I am very passionate about Africa. I am very, very passionate about the continent. Wakanda was such a beautiful movie for me because I feel like as a continent, we can do a bit more than where we are today. And the only way for us to do it is forming critical masses of small communities that can grow up into big things, right? And that is one way. So there is limited information at the moment, and that's why we are the way we are as a country. What I mean by that is people that know are together. People that don't know are together. Hence, so people that don't know and they are together, they are growing together without not knowing. People that know they are together, they are growing together. And so there's now two divides. People that know and are controlling things, and people that don't know and are being controlled. The only reason why there's some level of breakage now over the last decade is that we are now having people that do not know break out into communities of people that know. Then there's now a middle knowing that has now been growing and expanding over the last 10 years, which is one of the things that tech has now brought into the country. And I'm even speaking about Nigeria because that's a context that I really, really know. So because typically, some of us that are young now, the information we have access to now, you typically don't have it if you were born in a slum or if you were born in yard. Don't have access to those information. The people that have access to it, you know where they are staying, right? Unity school sometimes used to help to bring people together, but by the time you want to graduate, the ones that will travel out, then you walk past the University of Ife. So those that will now travel out, so you go back to Ife where there's so many bush, so that you can climb mountain. And your experience will not be limited. So that interwovenness is what communities are going to help to achieve. And that's why if you get to look how churches are helping to do that developmental community, because we cannot break out of where we are as a country if a critical mass of people do not have access to relevant information. It is impossible. And that is why I have made that the second or third most important thing in my life. Because I feel like the country or the Nigeria or the Africa that we want to have, we can't have it if a critical mass of young people don't have access to the information that is required to pull them out of where they are currently.
Interesting. But I also saw something on Twitter recently where someone was talking about they're reviewing, the conversation that they're not going as regards $10 million book. So someone was just sharing that so Ben just was sharing something in relation to that. He mentioned how like information is a differentiating factor.
Yeah.
Like if you see, sometimes you might not have maybe the unique product or something, but once you're in the circles that you know that this is how this thing is done, I can start a business like this, I can key into opportunities like that. That's like what differentiates those that like become really successful and those that don't become
information changes dynamics, and there are very few places where you can have access to information freely apart from communities. communities like, and the thing about communities, especially when they're done rightly, is that you're able to be a fool in the midst of people that are wise without feeling like you're foolish. If you are in the right community. So you just come as foolish as you are. You enter a community that has more wise people, and they still take you because they see the human in you and see the capacity that you can grow, and they begin to pump you into information, and then you begin to change. I can't, especially for me now, I mean, and sometimes not even foolishness, it's just that you don't have, you don't have access to the right information, and so you're limited. And I always say this, and I think he's tired of me. Keaton was one of the people I met that radically changed the direction of my life. Why? Because he knew a lot. Me, where I was coming from, I did not know a lot. And I got into his community. Although for me then, because I sabi write, that communication thing, I sabi am. They needed communication. Me, what they know, I did not sabi it.
So you brought something of value.
I brought my communication to the table, and they brought scattering my mind to the table, and they scattered my mind well. Now again, I'm at another level where the information that I have cannot take me to another level. I am currently cultivating a new community of people that can scatter my head, because scattering my head, guy, all of us have opinions that we think that are El Dorado. Until you get into some certain places and you realize that, man, I've been carrying nonsense. Now I need to break this nonsense to take me to another level. That's what I'm constantly doing. But I cannot, because there's something that also happens. People now do not enter those communities with relevant value. I mean, you want to enter a community that people are growing, and you don't want to bring something that will help them grow.
Yes. So I want us to dig into that place a bit more, right? You shared the importance of community, strong community, how like it can meeting the right people and being in the right place can change your entire trajectory. But then how can people find the right communities, and how can they get in?
Fortunately for me, one very important one that God has helped me with is church. So yes, find a good church where they are teaching Jesus, and they are also helping you understand that Jesus is the wisdom and the power of God. So you are not just praying 13 hours and you're irrelevant for the remaining 12 hours. No, for the remaining 11 hours. Because even God will use someone that understands the word to reach the word. Because like people used to think that God just used to go and pick someone. You look through the Bible. Because even when he comes into you at a place where you are not, he refines you
and helps
you grow. Because again, see the word now, see the word. The person that created the word, see the word, see the flower, see everything. You now think that he's the one that created you. He will now create you to reflect something that does not reflect him. I think for me, first time, easy for me, church. I mean, I'm a member of the new, so church is like really important. Then the next one, how do you find? You need to find though. That's why internet is now good. What are you using your internet for? I think one of the first things I also did, I'm going to be in my friend's wedding in a couple of months now. A friend who has become a brother. His tweet. She say, this thing when they tweet, be like, wait, I won't be. Enter DM. I don't know why. I'm very particular about the place I want to be. So anybody that look like where I'm going to or has gone there, I enter DM. So, and there are many things now. If you do Reddit, there are subtopics. Put it. If it's LinkedIn you are doing too, there are topics. Put it. Google all the people, communities related to XYZ. If it's Discord, anywhere your own community is, go and look for them. So, but put it, search. I mean, research is everywhere, because that's the only thing that I can say in that one. How do you find them? How do you engage? Have something that you can trade with. Have something that you can trade with. Sometimes people used to come in and say, this church, they are clicky, or this thing that I'm like, okay, wait. So this thing that you see today, you think that how did the thing appear? It appeared from thin air. No, people worked hard to grow something. If you are coming in, you at least you bring something that adds to what people are growing. You want to enter what you have not contributed to. How? When people are saying this group is too, I'm like, what do you want them to do? They should be like this. Because like this is what brings bond. Like this is tearing people. And if you just allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry to enter something that you have built, I am very sure, let me tell you in advance, it will break.
You know, I'm back to square one, looking for where to join.
Yeah. So some people don't even understand what makes this thing fake. They just want to join. Join what? Like, because I even value what I have, I will need to try you before I can allow you enter. Right? Yes, especially for the church one. Yes, everybody need to be open for the sake of national peace and global tranquility. However, there is also the 70, there is the 12, and there is the 2. I don't know. Jesus not carry everybody to transfiguration now. Well, because by the time you finish, he said, don't tell anybody. If you carry everybody to transfiguration, how do you control don't tell anybody?
It's more difficult.
So you need to also understand that groups will be formed, but what we cannot do is to treat anybody in a way that does not glorify God. You treat people as humans. You respect people. So even when I'm telling you no, I am not telling you no or I'm even telling you, these are the things, so if you do this, do this, now you have enough value so you can trade, so you can come in, right? That's what it should be. But don't try to enter a group that you are not ready to contribute. Or if, for example, all of us in this group now, we have designed our life to run at 200 miles per hour. And that is what ensures that every other person in the group is challenged. You have designed your life to run at 80 miles per hour. And you want to enter. What will happen first is that you will drag all of us from 200 back to 80, which is problem because all of us will now be in 80 with you. Okay, go and first join group that is 100. Because by the time you do 100 now, 80 to 100 is not too far, so they can drag you. And that's how you grow, and that's how you grow, and that's how you grow. But don't want to join a group that you are not ready to either contribute or give the same level of sacrifice that is entering. People are having sleepless nights. People are sweating and investing their money to build something. You are not ready to do the same, and you want to enjoy the privileges that they are enjoying. And if they don't give you, say they are classist or they are this, they should come and give it to you like on the platter because you say, oh, I want it. They should now give you. Did you know what they did to get it? I just feel like we should be a bit more realistic around how communities are run. There will be empowerment communities that are designed to bring you up, right? That one is due. Find that one. But as you now continue to go up, you now need to know that you yourself needs to trade in something to get something.
Like just something that I think that a lot of people or everyone needs to like work on. Just try not to even just feel entitled about anything. I want to get access to this community. What is required? Just like you shared. Okay, I need to be person of value. Oh, this is where I'm at. It's okay to be where you are at. Okay, this is where they are at. Okay, these are the steps I need to take for me to get there. And then you keep improving. Yeah. If you're at 80, you go to 90. 90, you go to 100, 150. And then by the time you now want to join the people that are running at 200, it's easy for you to just like follow up with them. You have such a genuine love for God, which has like shown in our conversation so far, right? So how has your work with Him guided your career or shaped your life in general?
People really sometimes do not know that there is a play of the prophetic in my choice of career, because it's easy for me to download and give it to you as strategy, and you think I read it somewhere or I got it from somewhere. So yeah, we use it a lot. Yeah. I think that's just a good way to post it. But I also think that, for example, how I look at people, what drives my community, what drives me wanting to contribute to the world, what makes me feel like, again, it's God's love for people. I mean, I think it's 1 Timothy 2:5. It's God's desire that all men be saved, right? I mean, so in my idea, I feel like I am using what I have, or what I have gotten, to be able to ensure that people are in a state of mind where they can make informed decisions, right? I mean, if you are okay, then what is making you decide is not necessarily hunger or food. You're in a state of mind where you can make informed decisions about several other aspects of your life. So I think that God is an integral part of my story. There is no me without Him, and every part of my life is informed by my relationship with God.
Interesting. What advice would you give to a young Nigerian or African creative or business person who currently feels unseen, unheard, or just feels stuck in the current position and they're unsure of how they can make like great impact?
Unseen, unheard is not a bad thing, or is it phase? And sometimes people who are even seen or unheard also get a phase where they are unseen and unheard, right? My pastor was teaching something so important recently, and he was speaking about resurrected visions. What that meant was that he was speaking from the perspective of sometimes you can grow something so big and then it can also now fail. But what will help you grow again is the state of your heart. How is that very important to this conversation? The state of your heart will determine how you go through the valley and the shadow of the death. The valley or shadow of death, yeah. It will help you contextualize valleys so that you know that it is a valley and there is a mountain on the other side. The state of your heart. And what that just means is that you put yourself in a situation where pressure does not push you out of alignment. You put yourself in a situation where challenges does not push you out of alignment. So if you're a young person, you're feeling unseen and unheard, maybe the question you need to ask is, why am I here? If there's now something else that you need to deal with and go to real or look up to God, which is the mountain, you remove that one. If there's nothing like that, you stay on course. I usually say that some things will not change because you force it to change, but change when it is the time for it to change. So understanding patience, which again goes back to the state of the heart, understanding patience and knowing too much about it. While driving here, I was listening to a video by Bishop David Oyedepo where he was speaking about the ark and saying that, and calling like over a couple of thousands of pounds that were run down for the ark. I think about 27 meters or so, and saying that there is 9-story building down the foundation for the ark. 9-story building down as foundation. And he said that foundation had to be like that so that they can carry 100 and something thousand people that are going to be fellowshipping in the ark. If you are at the point where you are building foundation and you need to build 9 stories down, why are you now angry?
Oh, yeah, people are not seeing at the top.
It's time. If you are building foundation, build foundation. So that by the time you are now carrying 109,000 people, they are not crashing. You will never be less busy than you are today. So if you never be less busy, if you cannot handle this one, how do you want to handle leading 1,000 people? How do you want to handle inspiring 1 million people? How do you want to handle being a Dangote and creating jobs for thousands of people, or being a reference point for millions of people, and you cannot handle 10 people? You say you are stressed, you're overworked, you're overwhelmed. 10 people, 10 people, 10 people, you're overworked, you're overwhelmed, your mental health is gone. 10 people, bro. Okay. And you want to, except you want to go through the corners, it means that you need to grow capacity to be able to reflect the level of greatness that is deposited in you. That is, if you have even grown the greatness that is in you. I feel like for anybody, and I think that's the same thing. I'm in a phase now where I'm trying to rebuild, so maybe I'm in your phase too. And I'm getting to understand how much more is also connected to taking risk, how much more is also connected to feeling like you have the capacity to eat something that is bigger than you. Because if you don't feel like it, you'll be eating small and it will be okay, right? So you first even need to, in fear, dare big things, right? Dare it. But first, grow so that when you're there, by the time you are falling, if you ever fall, you are falling on something. You're not just falling to the ground. And even if you won't fall to the ground, if you're a Christian, you're a righteous man, there's a number of times. If you don't fall one, 7 still there.
7 still far.
7 still far. Right? I mean, continue to do it. There's something that people always say in the startup world, which is like, I mean, just don't die. You can pivot in the midday, and the solution that you created that nobody bought. Like, imagine that you have been a tailor and you have been sewing very funky masks, and 2020 just happened, and now you have the most fashionable mask in the world. Some things will only happen at their time, which may be your time. Just don't die.
Interesting. That's like powerful, like building solid foundation and taking the time. Like, if you really want to build something solid, it's important to build capacity. So, like, as we round up, if you could summarize your journey so far into maybe a mantra, a principle, already,
We are all we have.
one.
Yeah, well, that has been a mantra. We are all we have. Yeah, I learned it from Timmy Dakota's Great Nation. But yeah, we are all we have. What that just means is people. We are all we have. So yeah. So because again, there is no faith without people. There is no greatness without people. So we are all we have. So we do all to ensure that we can get more for all of us.
In the next like 5 years, what should we be expecting from Opeyemi? Storytelling for you, communications for you, or even for others of Africa in general?
I mean, I don't have an answer to that question yet. Like I said, I'm rebuilding, which has been a very interesting phase for me because I'm learning a lot about myself again, despite all what people think I have or know or do or have achieved. But in the next 5 years, one thing that is sure is that I'll still be talking about Jesus.
It's constant.
And it's constant, like it doesn't change. And yeah, I mean, I'll be talking about Jesus at a bigger stage, at a larger stage. If what I have done means that now I'm inspiring a couple of thousands of people, it means that I would have done a little bit more, that maybe inspiring millions of people. Yes, I will be inspiring millions of people. I don't know. I'm in the stage where I'm trying to see if I can build my communication studio, because I feel like Africans are not telling a lot of stories, and how Africans or Africa will get out from where it is now is dependent on the story that the critical mass of young people believe. What do I mean by that? You cannot become what you have not seen. And if a critical mass of the people do not have an image of possibilities of what is possible, we're not going anywhere. And so I think one of my biggest jobs, right, while I may be doing things on the global scale, working with maybe global companies in honing my own communication skills, strategic communication, brand strategy, you will still see some significant work in helping more Africans understand the possibilities that exist despite the level of dysfunction that we have on the continent.
Beautiful. It's been an interesting conversation.
Thank you.
Learned a lot, dropped a lot of gems, branding, communications, marketing, finding yourself, storytelling. And I know that our listeners would have really picked a lot of things from this conversation. Thank you so much, Opeyemi, for
Thank you so much, Joshua.
To share.
Thank you very much.
Awesome, beautiful. Thank you guys for staying around, watching or listening on whatever platform you're watching or listening on. Thank you so much. Looking forward to bringing more amazing people to share their stories, share their journeys, and trust that you'll be inspired, and then you get all of the information you need to also start building your own amazing expert. I'll catch you guys in the next one.